Hey everybody, my name is Brandon with Memphis Record Pressing. Welcome to MRP University. Today we're going to take a look at how a vinyl record is made. Our goal with MRP University is to educate both our customer and the consumer and the fan of vinyl records. So today we're going to take a look at how a vinyl record is made. So when an artist finishes a recording in the studio, the first thing that they can do is they can press a button and beam it to the stratosphere for their streaming service of choice, whether that's Apple Music or Spotify or Amazon Music or any other service that streams music. But in order to produce a vinyl record, we first have to cut what's called a lacquer master. So a lacquer master is an aluminum disc that's coated with a substance called nitrocellulose.
Warning. We here at MRP feel it's important to note that Brandon is not a scientist. He's saying a lot of scientific stuff, but is in fact not a real scientist. Now, back to your class.
And so that substance is similar to fingernail polish, something that hardens but remains somewhat pliable. So this is a lacquer master that is unused, out of the box, glossy and black. But in vinyl record manufacturing, we're going to take this lacquer and we're going to load it into a machine called a lathe. In woodworking, a lathe is where you take a piece of wood, you might carve something like a table leg. But in vinyl manufacturing, we're actually going to carve the audio signal into this lacquer. So we load this onto a machine called a lathe. It is a large overgrown turntable about the size of this table in front of me. That lacquer is loaded onto that, and that audio signal is actually processed through a series of equipment that eventually becomes an analog signal flow. So that signal is processed to a tiny cutting head that actually vibrates. So it's the vibration of those sound waves that are vibrating that cutting head. And they are going to carve the grooves that represent the vibration of that sound wave into that lacquer master. So here we have a used lacquer master. We cut the edge off here for various uses at Memphis Record Pressing, but you can see that this signal has been, or that audio signal, that sound wave has been cut or carved into this lacquer. So this is the master recording. So you can't play this lacquer master. You can, but it's highly susceptible to damage. So to further prepare this for the vinyl manufacturing process, we subject this to a process called electroplating. So we're going to take this lacquer and we are going to airbrush it with a layer of pure silver. That's going to make it a magnet of sorts. We're going to put this into a tank that's filled with heat chemicals, electrolyte solution, and tiny marble-sized pieces of nickel. And as that electrical current flows through that nickel is going to dissolve and it's going to form a thin layer on this silver-coated lacquer. After about an hour and a half or so, we're going to take that out of the bath and we're going to separate it very carefully, and we're going to be produced with what's called a father or a master plate. So this father and master plate actually comes out of the tank and it is flat like this. It's not yet formed in the center or on the edge. And this is a negative impression of our positive lacquer master. So this father or this master plate, to further prepare that for production, is going to be placed back into that tank, and we are going to grow a metal positive. And when we pull this out, we're going to have a metal positive that's identical to our lacquer master, and this is called the mother plate. So then we're going to take the mother plate and mama's going to make babies. So we put the mother plate back in the tank and we're going to grow multiple iterations of our negatives, or these, which we are going to then call stampers. We punch those in the center, we're going to form them on the edge, and this becomes our stamper plate for which we're going to use to stamp out our PVC records. So this stamper will then be mounted to our machine, or our vinyl record pressing machine. It's mounted to a big, thick piece of metal that's a mold or a die that has channels piping through it where we deliver steam and cold water. That steam is going to heat this stamper up to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit or so. In the back of that press, we have a machine that's called an extruder. And so the extruder is essentially a gravity-fed funnel or a hopper where we pour PVC pellets, like little BB-sized pieces of PVC. Those PVC pellets are actually fed into a heated barrel that has a giant screw or an auger inside. Think a giant sausage maker. And so as that barrel is heated and that PVC is delivered through that funnel, that auger is pushing that PVC and it's melting along the way. At the end of that, it's going to extrude it into what we call a biscuit or a puck. It looks very much like a hockey puck, or in the South, a big fat buttermilk biscuit. So that vinyl PVC puck is going to be delivered along with a paper label, top and bottom, onto this stamper where we have the A-side stamper on the bottom, we have the B-side stamper on the top, and then those are going to squeeze together. We're going to smash that like a pancake. We're going to compression mold that so that that warm PVC melts into the microscopic grooves of that stamper. Cold water is going to chase that steam out, and it's going to we're going to trim the edge of that record off, and then magically music is going to come out of a piece of smashed plastic. From there, we're actually going to physically inspect with our eyeballs both sides of every LP. It's a very time-consuming, labor-intensive process, but we fully believe here at Memphis Record Pressing that it is extremely important that we're looking at every record that we press. So in addition to visually inspecting both sides of every LP, we also listen during production, 1 record per machine per hour. We're going to listen to the first 3 minutes of each side and then the quiet spaces in between the audio tracks, and then that run out at the end, because if we don't visibly see something in the LP, we'll probably hear it in the quiet spaces. So ladies and gentlemen, that is how a vinyl record is made. Thank you so much for joining us today for this class of MRP University, and we'll see you next time.